Lesson 2.5, Adding Decimals. So at this point, with our study of decimals, we've done some work with looking at place value, starting with the decimal point. One spot over, of course, is the tens place. So if I just write an example of a decimal here, the 3, of course, is in the ones place, the land of whole numbers. Then we have the decimal point. The 8 is sitting in the tens place. The 7 in the hundreds place. And finally, 4 in thousands place. And we read this decimal as 3 and 874 thousandths. We've done some work with decimals up to the thousandths place as far as reading and writing them in standard form, word form, expanded form. We have compared them by stacking them, which means lining them up by place value. And now when it comes to adding and subtracting them, essentially the first step is just to organize the work by stacking the decimals, lining them up by place value, and then going from there. There's two sort of cases we'll see in these practice problems. One is money problems, where we are given numbers that are not presented in decimal form, but we need to rewrite them in decimal form. And then you'll also see cases where we are adding two decimals that have a different number of digits after the decimal point. So you might have one decimal that only goes up to the tens place being added to another decimal that has digits going all the way out to a thousandths place, and so on. And we know the method there is after you stack them, you can always add zeros to the end of the decimal without changing its value. That's enough talking from your teacher. Let's get started. So in this practice problem number 1, we have $35, which is like 35. It's a whole number, right? It doesn't have a decimal component. Plus 78 cents. 78 cents, of course, is less than a whole. So notice how that has been rewritten down here. The part that I don't like about how it's been rewritten is that it's not really lined up. In other words, I don't see the decimal point lined up with the decimal point. I don't see the 5 and the 0 lined up in the ones position. So I would not rewrite it like that. Here's how I would rewrite it. $35 is like plain old 35. I've got a 3 in the tens place and I've got a 5 in the ones place. 78 cents, I've got a 7 in the tens place. I've got an 8 in the hundreds place. Now I'm going to add them. Up here, I'm going to imagine there's a decimal point after the 35, and I can fill in these gaps with zeros. And now I should be ready to go. But before I start adding, I know I'm going to insert that decimal point right where it lies, and then begin my adding. In the hundreds column, 0 and 8 gets me 8. 0 and 7 gets me 7. And then in the ones column, the 5 comes down. In the tens column, the 3 comes down, and you get your answer of $35.78. Number 2, let's first look at what's given to us, 63 cents plus $36. Okay, $36 is completely a whole number. There's no part of a whole. There's no decimal component. 63 cents, on the other hand, that needs to be rewritten as 0 and 63 hundredths. So I'm going to line them up. There's 36. I'll imagine a decimal point after it. Underneath that, there's 63 cents, less than a whole. I'll add them together. Put those two zeros into those empty spaces. Drop a decimal point right where it lies, and go down my columns, 0 and 3, 0 and 6, $36.63. Number 3, $1.45 or plus 25 cents. All right, this one's looking a little bit more interesting. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to copy the 25 cents right underneath decimal point. Line up the 4 and the 2 together in the tens place. Line up the 5 and 5 together in the hundreds place. Insert a decimal point right where it lies. And then hundreds column first, 5 and 5 is 10. 0 comes down, carry the 1. 1 and 4 is 5. 5 and 2 is 7. And then over in the ones column, we have $1.70. The last money problem in this set of practice problems, 89 cents plus $1.75. Stack them, line them up by place value. Nine and 5 is 14. 1 gets carried. 1 and 8 is 9. 9 and 7 is 16. Again, the 1 gets carried. $2.64. Moving on. Now that you're starting to get into a rhythm, what I would like you to do is follow with me while I set up these problems and make sure that you have lined them up by place value the same as I have. And then pause the video, try to solve it on your own, and unpause the video to compare your work and answer with mine. And I encourage you to do that for the rest of this practice problem set. Stay with me while I set up the problem so that we're both have the same setup. Pause it. You solve it the best you can on your own. Unpause it, compare your work and answer with mine. All right, here we go. Number 5, 1,453 and 7/10 plus 5 and 4800ths. Notice how that has been lined up for us, and I'm going to insert a decimal point here and begin my adding. $1,459 and 1800ths. Number 6. I'm going to copy the big number down first. And then I'm going to copy the smaller number down below it. I'll insert a 0 here. At this point, you can pause the video, work it out, and then unpause it. 0 and 5 is 5. 9 and 7 is 16. Carry the 1. 1 and 8 is 9. This 1 comes down. This 8 comes down. And then the other digits come down as well. We get an answer of 29,819 and 65 hundredths. Number 7. Going to copy the bigger decimal down and then the smaller one. At this point, you can pause the video. 4 and 9 is 13. 1 and 9 is 10. 1 and 9 is 10. 1 and 8 is 9, and the 9 comes down. 990 and 300ths. This one, I'm looking at it, and I'm not even going to copy it down because I can see that this part is just going to be tacked on to the end of this part, isn't it? Because if I was stacking them, it would look like this. My answer is 343,856 and 11 hundredths. Here I'm going to copy the larger decimal down first, and then the smaller. I see I've got one place value I can fill in a 0 with. And then you are welcome to pause the video here and work it out. Then compare with me. 0 and 4 is 4. 6 and 5 is 11. 1 and 5 is 6. 6 and 4 is 10. 1 and 7 is 8. I get an answer of 9,180 and 14 hundredths. Zero and 7 is 7. 7 and 8 is 15. Carry the 1. 1 and 8 is 9. 9 and 8 is 17. Carry the 1. 1 and 8 is 9. 9 and 7 is 16. Again, carry the 1. And we get an answer. 867 and 57 hundredths.